Hey there, everybody. Parks Owsley here with Score.gg, joined by Weldon, head coach for CLG. Congrats on your first win. First off, let's talk about that. Going into this game, obviously 0-2 weekend last week. You want to bounce back. And it's against a team that was 2-0 last week.
Oh, so really?
Yeah. So you turned it around. I looked at it and was like, man, bummer. I want to see a bunch of really good fights, and you guys did that. So thank you. So what was kind of the game plan going into FlyQuest?
The game plan was pretty simple. We have stuff that we're okay at that we know from this week of scrims, and so we wanted to get our comfortable comps. And I think that in the beginning part of the season, when we're forming a team identity, the draft is a lot more about who we are than about the opponents. And so we were just trying to make sure that we could get the picks that we wanted. And not really on, what fits into FlyQuest and denial. And we want to play the League of Legends that we know that we can from the week of training that we've done. And so we were able to get the champs and kind of able to execute on them. But yeah, I think the players are happy that we won and that we have a lot to learn.
Yeah, for sure. And I was out there watching, and there were smiles across the board, as you were closing in on the Nexus. There was both a sigh of relief and genuine excitement for kind of realizing, all right, guys, we're good, we got this. It's still early in the season, so I'm happy that you guys got the win. What are kind of some of the things that you're working on then? You mentioned team identity. I know that you're switching out top and jungle some. You have some new player or Power of Evil. So what are you kind of working on to figure that out?
Well, it's tough because the meta is still in heavy flux, and so players or teams are still trying to figure out what is the best way, or what is if it's rock paper scissors, or if there's a penultimate kind of style. And so we're kind of melding that with actually learning how our team coordinates, and then also trying to figure out how our team actually wants to play in the meta. And I think that by the end of this week, we knew the direction we wanted to head, but we can't do that until next week because we drafted a certain way the entire week, so we knew what we knew, right? So I think that this week was a lot about trying to figure out. I think that we know what we want to do next week now already, even before we played tomorrow's game on stage. But we were working a lot on the basics, like team fighting. I think that whenever you have 5 guys thrown together and they've all team fought differently with different people over the years, you got to figure out how it is that you read each other's body language and who needs what communicated and how people are aggressive or not aggressive, on certain times. And then there's always the emotional component that goes into that, who, when they're scared, needs somebody to, give them a confidence boost, and who is always going to be on point and never needs, and is always going to engage the team fight or play correctly even if they're, behind. So a lot of that basic stuff, I think. And our team fights actually look fine today. So I'm happy that there's a linear progression upward. I think that there was some mindset stuff on stage today that definitely was, okay, we've been doing this successfully all week, but then we were a little too nervous to play more spread out across the map. There was basically from 22 minutes, it was like an ARAM, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that's a sign of two bad teams playing League of Legends, right? So I don't think the players have all said we want to win games, but we don't want to win them like that. Mm-hmm. We don't. So they're excited that they executed on the stuff that they did, and disappointed as we all are on the stuff that we didn't execute on. But we have another shot at that tomorrow, and it's exciting to know that we at least are progressing on it, in training.
Yeah, that's great news. And it's also kind of nice to learn things and still get the win rather than, we lost. Yeah. So we got, it's great learning opportunity. It's nice when you also get the win.
Lose is improve and win is improve too.
Yeah. And it's good to know, you've already got plans for this week set up. You already know what you're working on. So interested to see what kind of changes going forward. So this comp then was just late game. If you don't beat us in 30 minutes, you win the game. And we saw that with Scion. Was that just kind of something that you realized that you have very good control over later game things, or is it just kind of something that happened in this game that just those pieces fit based on the draft?
Well, I think it's a little bit how the pick and ban just fell out. Who FlyQuest chose to ban led into their top pick. They could have put they could have put their Aatrox in the jungle with the last pick and done something else, So that was just like their choice, not ours. We were just drafting for a pretty standard composition, like 1-3-1 with the Tahm Kench that can like apply map pressure. Doesn't really team fight as well necessarily as the Braum. But I think that, FlyQuest put themselves into a game plan and then they didn't execute on it, obviously. And so I mean, we weren't intending to sit around and do nothing for 30 minutes until they won the game. There was plenty of strength that we should have executed on. I don't think we should have lost all of those early dragons, or any at all for that matter. I think that we definitely shouldn't have lost a lot of the mid lane and bot lane pressure that we did have. So I think we're better than that. And FlyQuest played well to get the 3 dragons and then couldn't snowball from that. So I think that they'd had the same problem we did, right? They were just A-ramming mid and couldn't figure out how to obtain side lane pressure, and then the game just went too long for their Aatrox side.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that insight, kind of on, how you got the win. So what are kind of some of the themes that you guys are working on then as a team? I know you oftentimes, I think more than other coaches have kind of an understanding of people and how they think and how they can, utilize their own specific thought process in a whole like team environment. So what are some of the things that you are working on specifically with them?
So right now, the only focus is about relentless learning and relentless aggression, because this early in the season, if we learn slowly or if we are slow in our application of any concepts, or if we twiddle our thumbs in any game, like other teams are just going to outpace us, whether it's understanding of the meta or how to coordinate really complex plays or how to eke every advantage out of the map that you possibly can. Like if you don't push and push and push and test your limits, then your limits are just going to stay right there. They're not going to advance. So in a game like this, it was the thing I was happy with the players was that they were like trying to figure it out. If you listen to their communication, they were like, okay, let's try this. Okay, let's try this. Okay, let's try this. They weren't just sitting back and being like, okay, we're going to lose the game, or let's just turtle for like 35 minutes. They were making the mistakes that they didn't like, but then they were trying to figure out how they could abuse their opponents still, even though they're making them. So that kind of mindset's really important with a team like CLG that has had a very traumatic year last year. It's kind of trauma-filled. And there's a danger of that trauma affecting on-stage mindset this year for the players that stayed around. And then the players coming in with trauma, right? Like Tristan's year with Optic was definitely not the follow-on to Misfits that he wanted, So he's like fighting for his redemption as well. And I think that, Ray, as a rookie, you always want to show a strong opening season. And so he doesn't want to, he's like hesitant in areas that he shouldn't be, but then like really dying to prove himself, and push in those areas. So we're working on those things.
It's definitely a lot. I'm glad that you mentioned the trauma aspect of it, because I did want to ask, when you came in, you knew that a lot of these guys had that really rough 2 splits. Both splits were really hard. And you could definitely see it in the players. So what was your like mindset about how to push past that? And then especially at an O2 week, like what are things that, that you can do to combat that and keep kind of the positive aspect?
So there's 3 elements. First of all, an understanding that it's going to take a little bit of time. So if you go in super hard, super aggressive, and if all the players have really high expectations, if you have like a TSM style environment, no offense to TSM, I love their environment. I tried to help create it. But if you have a TSM style environment with really high expectations and admonishments on the players, everybody's going to burn out in like a week and a half because the results aren't there and the growth isn't fast enough, and there's too many things to work on. So we have to take a more calm and like happy approach in training where people don't stress out so much about the mistakes that they're making, although we still stress out about them, right? Because that's natural. But we're trying to make sure that we have longevity in our growth process, that we don't, jump the gun too much, and then players are like really frustrated that like we tried really, 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 really hard to the point of total breakdown, and then we lost anyway, So there's that. On the other hand, we're trying to do that in a way that allows us to train even more, right? So we're actually doing triple blocks, and we're doing extra meetings, and we're doing extra VOD review, and there's homework. So the players are putting in more hours. We're trying to put in more hours than the other team to try to be relentless in our pursuit to victory, because we have to learn more than them if we want to have a higher growth curve. And so those two things like pull against each other. The more that we can make training not take so much energy and be so stressful, the more training we can do if we do it right. So those two things are kind of the main push and pull. And then I did have a third point, which I've forgotten since the beginning of this conversation. What was the question again?
Going into the trauma, or knowing that there's trauma there.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. So, and then the third one is making sure that as we lose scrimmages and as we lose onstage games, that the players don't stop believing in their own potential and start playing safe. That's like the biggest danger, is that they're going to think, okay, well, because we failed this team fight 6 times, the 7th time, I'm scared to take it. Or because I went into the river 4 times and like I thought we were going to win this skirmish and we lost it 4 times, that they go in the 5th time being like, we're going to win this skirmish. That their mindset about their own potential is resilient so that they don't have the scar tissue building up and preventing them from playing proactive. That's the scary thing. And so today was kind of a test of that. That we saw some scar tissue from scrimmages and from last weekend. Is that scar tissue the real? Or was it just that it was their first onstage game this week and we have a bunch of new stuff we learned and they couldn't quite pull it off under the pressure, and tomorrow they're going to show it? That's the big question on our mind right now.
So yeah, it sounds like this win was very important. I hope that kind of showed, rather than scar tissue, maybe just light bruising or something. But
more just like high energy, right? We gotta win again. Right. So maybe now that they've won a game, they can relax and focus on execution.
Yeah, well, good. And you play Cloud9 tomorrow, so that'll be tough. They are looking really good and very solid, so I'll be interested to see how that turns out for you.
Yeah, their game today was the most controlled C9 game I've seen ever. I don't know. It was really low cover. It was 5 kills, and they were already with Baron, knocking down the bot tier 2. And I was like, normally you expect when you have an Urgot this fed, that he's just going to be diving their Nexus turrets, But Licorice was just like, yeah, I'm just going to kind of slowly win this game. It's very un-C9.
Yeah, I know, right? Everyone's improving this year, so I want to talk a little about your past with CLG. Obviously, you're back. Have you noticed any kind of big differences on the team, on the organization, since the first time when you joined them in 2015?
I mean, it's unfathomable. Everything is different. Yeah. The only thing that's the same is the blue, the color. It's the same shade, the same code, hex code key, blue.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of questions about that, I think, on Reddit.
It's the same one. I'm saying. It was just different coloration. You've only probably ever seen it if you've bought a jersey, or if you've been in person, right? Because it's always color corrected or just shaded or tinted when it's on videos and stuff like that. But yeah, that's about the only thing that's the same.
That's funny.
Also, the brick is still there.
The brick?
Yeah, the brick.
The actual building itself?
When I got to CLG, I wanted to do a team building activity, and so I found a cinder block from the pile out by the trash, and I had them walk around the block, really, really big block in Arcadia. So it took 15 minutes to walk around, and they couldn't talk to each other at all. And they had to carry the brick, and then they had to take it from their teammate only through body language. So they had to pick up their teammate's burden without hearing them say it out loud, right? They just had to choose a moment to read and take it, and the other person had to give it to them and be okay with that. And they had to pay attention to that transition. How's it feel to give up your burden to somebody who's taking it? And maybe they're taking it too early and you're annoyed at them, or maybe they're taking it too late and you're like, how come nobody's picking this thing off from me, And when you're going in for somebody, you have all these, so anyway, we did that activity, and then they used the brick later for a different activity with their other performance coach the next season, and anyway, it's still there.
Nice. The brick lives on. The brick and the blue.
Yeah.
So lastly, before we go, I've heard that you guys are naming a team captain and kind of experimenting with that. Who's the captain? How is that working? And kind of what is their role within the team? Is it an in-game thing, an out-of-game? What's going on there?
Yeah, so it was really clear last year, if you listen to how the games played out, that there was no leadership in the mid and late game. Reignover's like a beast jungler in the early game, and then he just didn't exactly know either he knew what to do but couldn't lead the team, or he didn't know what to do and couldn't lead the team, or he thought he knew what to do and led the team wrong, but actually that didn't happen very much. I was listening to the comms, and it was just kind of like, yeah. So the 100% main goal this year is to develop that leadership. We have to have it if we want to win anything, and it's going to take. That means we're going to take a little bit longer than teams that already have a person that's been doing that for a while, because we didn't get one in the off season, and we didn't make that a priority either. We tried a little bit, and I made sure that we had somebody like Moon on the roster, because like he's an excellent shot caller. And I wanted that in case we couldn't develop another one too. We need a shot caller, so he can do that. But at the same time, I think that for me, it's always best if it's the support position. It's good for the team. It's good because that's the best position for this kind of like time sink. And it's good because Vincent is like an amazing player, and he knows a lot about the game, and he's a very focused person. Biofrost, that is. And he's swift to learn new things and to apply them the very next game. He's very studious, which is one of the reasons he was one of the best rookies, ever to come into the NALCS in terms of results. And so, as we're working on that with him, the main thing is that we don't just say like, okay, you're team captain, and expect that label to produce some sort of result. That's not how it works. So we're starting out with infrastructure. He will be there early and working with the coaching staff to make sure that we are moving the team in the direction that fits his vision, right, and his style of play, and that he knows what he wants to do on the map. And it's I don't want the fans to go wild and be like, okay, well, all of this is resulting because Vincent wants to play this way, and that's wrong, and that's why we're losing. Like, that's not, like, he's a third voice at the table, right, in the morning meetings with Irene and I about what we want to cover every day to like emphasize. But like you don't get to blame him for any of the strategic direction, and he can take all of the credibility for it too. He can take all of the what do you call it? The credit. Achievements. Yeah, all the credit. Yeah, all the credit. But you don't get to blame him if things go wrong, okay? Because it's not his fault. It's the coaching staff's fault. And then, eventually we're going to be working. I mean, he already has an in-game voice. It's already very clear-cut. It's already very coordinated and very strong. And so we're working on when to apply that, and how to expand it into every situation instead of just the situations where he's the leader, right? Everybody kind of leads when their champion is strong, or when they have priority, or when they know what to do. And it takes a different kind of gumption to micromanage other people in their situations. You kind of got to know, like, you got to have like a preset decision tree in your head. And so we have that, like Irene and I. And I think Vincent kind of does, but it's not a focus of leadership. So then turning that into leading your team is like another thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what we're working on.
Well, that sounds fascinating. I hope it works out. I think the pick is interesting too, because it's been something that I think he's said that he's wanted to work on, and it's something I know that when he was on TSM, it was all about him and his plays, and just him as a support player, not as a team leader. And I know it's something that he's wanted to do. So I'm interested to see how it works.
When you pick a position like this, the most important thing is that the socially chosen person as leader and the infrastructurally chosen person as leader. Like, you have the formal names, then you have the informal group and who they think that they like. You have to pick somebody that everybody respects. Mm-hmm. And everybody respects Vincent. He puts in a lot of work. He's very consistent. He's always try-harding. He is always improving anything that you ask him to. He'll do it in the next game. Like, he's that focused. So everybody really respects him and his work ethic, and he does very well under pressure. So it's just a natural fit.
Awesome. Well, look forward to that. Thank you so much. Any last words you want to say before we head out?
Please keep supporting us. Send us your energy. Check out the CLG subreddit and talk about what you see in the games and what you think we should be doing. Give us some advice. And follow me on Twitter for roster announcements every week as we head into the games. Mind Games Weldon. Mind Games Weldon. Or maybe CLG Weldon. I don't know which one it'll be at that time, but anyway.
Check it out there. Definitely get the roster announcements. Thank you for that. And thank you for the interview. Thank you all for watching. We'll catch you next time.